prepare some questions that I would like you to answer, if you're happy to, of course. You got really viral. I know that with one of your Substack articles, right? There was the death of corporate job. And I want to ask you, for someone that hasn't read it yet, hopefully I will read it, but why do you say that corporate job is dead?
Yeah. So I think that firstly, it's a little bit of a kind of like clickbaity, hyperbolic title. I think that obviously there are corporate jobs that still exist, and so perhaps a little bit of a misunderstanding. Some people got very angry
what
at
type
me
of
for that.
jobs would you say that are maybe or dead or like nonsense? Maybe it's more about
I think that like if you read the article, the point I make is it's more the belief system behind that like type of career. I think is fundamentally changing. I think that if you look at what organizational structures 50 years ago were and the deal that the employees were getting, I think it was fairly clear that you put in your hours, you start at the bottom, there's a ladder, there's clear progression, you understand what you're getting from it, you get a pension. The work provided certain other things in community, and people went into the office. It was a slightly different scenario, and I think also the economy was at a point where you could provide for your family, you could afford to buy a property with these sort of salaries. And I think that a couple of things have changed now. I think that our generation understands that in order to get ahead, oftentimes the best way to do it is not to stay at one company. There's less incentive to be loyal to one organization. The other thing is that I think that as times have got tougher, there have been various points where it's been clear that for the employer, the employees are really kind of a number, and they're disposable. And I think we're seeing more and more of that as automation, AI, technology kind of comes into the equation. To summarize, I think that essentially it's the belief system that's allowed these kind of work your way up the corporate ladder, and this is what you'll get type narrative to proliferate. I think that's what we're seeing is dying.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. And I think it's good, right? That is, for me, I think it's like good that it's kind of like shifting and there is like a transformation. So I think that's a good thing. Also, a question, because you talk a lot about like corporate bullshit, etc., and kind of like different ways of doing things. Have you been working in one of those bullshit jobs, or in corporate, if you like?
I've not had a corporate job, no, and this was one of the big criticisms that was.
I know, I read that. That's why I'm asking.
So no, I haven't. This was written at a time where I was doing a lot of thinking about where kind of meaninglessness comes from, and this what seemed to me be a kind of epidemic of meaninglessness. I have lots of friends, many of my kind of peers and people that I went to university with, went to school with, ended up in these jobs. And so I was hearing a lot of things anecdotally that I think allowed me to see something that perhaps that they weren't seeing from inside. I think that you can get caught up.
I think that you were mentioning, right, that one, I don't know if it was written by you or you took it from somewhere else. I can't remember that you asked one of your friends or colleagues, what did you do during the day after that you met for drinks or something? And it was like nonsense, right? What they were trying to explain.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, from somebody that doesn't come from that world, when it's explained to you, it just sounds so nonsensical. And I'd always, basically since I graduated, I had always had a slightly more kind of entrepreneurial path, and I'd done freelancing and I'd done contract work, and I'd had a portfolio career. I had worked at companies, but I was always doing other stuff on the side, and so there was this kind of culture of if you didn't do work that added value, like you don't get paid. And I need to get paid to live. And so when people were talking about all of this kind of pretending and this, I'm at work, but I'm not actually doing anything that, you might as an outsider consider work. It all just felt very, very strange to me. And I felt that I wanted to, write about my observations. And I'm sure I got some things wrong not having that experience.
Not that many, to be honest. I mean, not that many, because
yeah, maybe.
I think that from an outsider, I don't know what you think, but it might sound amazing, right? To have like a job that you get paid really well and you don't have to do much, right? It's like a very easy job. And I feel that from an outsider, it sounds, oh, it's amazing. Everyone would want that. And from my personal experience, I mean, in the short term, I think it's nice, right? Because you get to do other things. But in the long term, at least for someone that needs kind of like challenge and feel that I'm adding value and, that I feel something, that I'm doing something with purpose. Yeah, you get disconnected so easily and you get bored of pretending as well, right? You don't know how to pretend anymore. It's just like, it doesn't make sense to be here like 8 hours. You and I know that I'm not doing anything. So it just doesn't make sense, because I remember like personal experience. I asked, so I was working full time and I requested to see if I could cut some hours or like days or even like part-time, because I knew that I was not necessarily like 8 hours per day. Even I was not doing that much. And I was starting my side project as well. So I needed to have like officially more time, but on paper. And I requested that. They said no, that for my role, they needed someone to be there working full time, even if I knew that it was not necessary, So in the end, I left. But yeah, they could have paid me half and still be working there. But yeah, they didn't accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have so many friends who, they think, or they thought, oh, the dream is like, I'm so jealous of these people that get paid, so much to do nothing. And you're right. I mean, there's the kind of short term, like, wow, I can't believe, but then you get so bored. And I think that at one point or another, you're forced to confront the reality that, time is your most valuable asset, and you're spending the majority of your waking hours doing something that feels like contrary to what you think you should be doing or what you enjoy or what brings you life. I mean? And it's but I think that people get to a certain point where they say, the money is really secondary if I'm spending the majority of my time on this planet doing something that just feels completely misaligned with who I am. So yeah, I mean, I have that all the time where so many people come and say, oh, it's so jealous of these people. Like, I wish I had this bullshit job. And you don't most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, maybe, I don't know, a later stage or something when, I don't know, you just like have a family and you can find like purpose elsewhere, right? I don't know. I just imagine that if you're like, maybe you have like kids, mortgage, etc., and then you're just at that point of, this is my life. I'm happy with it. And then I go home and I get to enjoy with my kids and I have a good salary. Okay. But yeah, at the younger stage, I think that if you are thriving something else, it just gets really, really boring. And now that you're talking about that, I always like to, because I feel I've been changing my opinion quite a lot. So I normally say that it's okay to not like your job or to not love your job. Normally, I always say that you need to enjoy the life that you get outside your job as well, right? That you need to enjoy and create the life that you really enjoy. And then the job is kind of like what is financing your life, right? But working for myself now, I completely changed that opinion. So I feel that you don't have to love your job if you're working for someone else. But when you create something of your own, I feel that there is a need of purpose there. Where that.
So I think that these things aren't as binary as people like to make them seem. I think that they exist on a spectrum, and there's an author, Scott Galloway, who talks about this, and I actually wrote an article on the topic, and his position is essentially that find the thing that you're really good at, and find the thing that people are willing to pay you for, and you'll learn to love that because of the lifestyle that it affords you, the ability to provide for your family, the ability to live a financially comfortable life, all of these things. And so he says if you're great at tax law and and it's something that pays well, go and be a great tax lawyer, and you'll learn to love that kind of thing. I think that to a certain extent he's right. I think that the nuance that perhaps needs to be added is that it depends what your goals are, and it depends where you're starting from. I think that I know he comes from a kind of like a very working class background, and I think he's talked about his relationship with money, and coming from a place of scarcity. I think that if you think that the levers that you're working with are like, do I enjoy this? Is somebody willing to pay me? And am I good at it? You can play with those levers. And so if you're at a point in your life where the thing that you're optimizing for is enjoyment, then understand that might come with trade-offs. That might, maybe there's a bit of learning that you need to do, or maybe it's you're happy to engage more with, I don't know, say you want to be a musician, with the understanding that it's unlikely to make you a decent living. And then there'll be other times, as you say, where perhaps you have to provide for your family, you've got mortgage or responsibilities, where you say, okay, actually I'm going to sacrifice some of that enjoyment, but I'm going to go and focus on something where there's an opportunity to be paid more. I just think that people need to understand that there are trade-offs, and I think that they also need to develop an awareness of what these things are. And I mean, that's the project that I'm working on. That's what we're trying to help people do, is understand, what do I really enjoy doing? What am I really good at? And what are the market opportunities? And once you know those things, you can play with those levers in a more kind of like meaningful way, and you have more information and data as you make these really important decisions.
I like that. I'm also a bit with that because I didn't know that Scott Galloway was talking about that, because I saw a video that got really viral of Reese Witherspoon. I can't remember what's her last name, like Reese something, that she was talking about that, right? Like, find your talent, and then that's going to be your job, and then you will enjoy it, etc. Right? But I also feel that there is kind of like a fine line on when, for example, you start like a side project or like a hobby that you really enjoy, but then you want to monetize it, right? And then you see that you can monetize that and start getting some traction, and then you just leave your job, everything else, to focus on that hobby. And then you're dependent on that. And at least for me, I know that gets me burnout a bit, when you're like fully focused on something that I used to enjoy that, right? And now I'm doing this full time, and I don't really enjoy it that much anymore because there is a lot of pressure. So I feel that there is, I don't know, we don't have to monetize all the hobbies. That's one thing. And you need to be really careful, how much effort you put in one of those things, or just like maybe diversify a bit and not just put everything in something that you really enjoy, like a musician thing, right? That I used to play violin, for example, right? I enjoy playing violin, but just on the side. I don't want to just someone telling me what to play and what to do for a full-time job. So yeah, it's a bit that.
Yeah, I also think as well that I totally agree, you don't have to monetize your hobbies, but also I think that there's an understanding, you can understand how hobbies, whilst they may seem unrelated to whatever you do for work, like I think you'll find, if you look a little bit deeper, that these things are connected. I have a lot of hobbies, and I have this with sport, for example, that I'm not going to try and become a professional athlete. I'm too old for that now.
But if you saw that someone with pay, I mean, maybe you feel that you don't want to try it because you feel like it's super far away and there is a lot of, competitors there. But imagine that someone comes to you and say, hey, I see you're playing wherever and you're really good at it. I think, when someone encourages you to do it, maybe you have that validation and you're like, oh, maybe I should try to do that, right? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I do hear you. Although I think that sometimes those hypothetical situations, like, it's not going to happen as much as I want it to happen. But I think that, for example, take sport. Like, I'm not going to be a professional athlete anytime soon in the real world, as much as I'd like to. I'm much more energized in my work if I go to the gym, if I do kickboxing, if I go play tennis, if I do this, that, and the other. And so whilst it sounds like a completely unrelated thing, I view my hobbies as a crucial part of what allows me to perform at work. And there's also things that, you develop different ways of thinking based on a variety of topics. I mean, I wrote about this last week, and I'm not going to get the numbers right. I'm reading Range at the moment, but he talks about, the number of like Nobel Prize winners that also play a musical instrument, or they, or they do art, or they engage in, scientists that also engage in kind of creative endeavors. There's a real kind of trend of people that have made it to the top of their field who have a seemingly completely different and unrelated interest. But yeah, I mean, Einstein's the classic example. And I just think that, you're developing different ways of thinking, you're developing different kind of unconscious mental models and frameworks. Yeah, I don't think that you have to be paid for them, but in a kind of, I suppose, secondary way, sometimes you are paid for them through what they allow you to do professionally.
Opportunities, etc., kind of like even like satisfaction. Yeah, I see that, and completely agree on the sports thing. For me, it's been crucial. I didn't used to do much sports before, but I guess that I felt that I had something to do before. When I was going to an office, at least I was, I don't know, I was meant to leave the house, go to the office and talk to people, and you feel that there is a role for you there. But when you start working on your own, I need to force myself to leave the house. And now that's why I just have kind of like a routine. Otherwise it gets like, I don't know, I get like crazy, like mentally, even like just going to the supermarket. I just the moment I leave the house, I'm like, okay, everything is much better now. Finding these little things. I completely agree that it has an impact on and how your day goes and your work, your energy, etc. Also, another question I had in terms of like career success or outcome, however you want to call it. I don't like to call it career success because it's very personal. But how I know that you talk about luck as well sometimes, right? So how much of an impact has, on one side, maybe just luck in a career outcome in general, or also like privilege, like background, etc.?
I think a lot. It's a hard topic to talk about, but I think it's important to acknowledge it. I think that I think that it's really helpful for people to have a really honest conversation with themselves about what their circumstances are and what's realistic. I also think that the other side of that is that to a certain extent it's out of your control, and so it's not helpful to dwell on it or limit yourself because of that. I think you should focus on the things you can control. And I think always remember, whether or not you I think always remember that you're a product of your circumstances and the luck and the kind of privilege that you have, because as soon as you start to think that your success is your own and that your own creation, I think that it can get a little bit dangerous. I think that it's a bit generic, but I think it's really important to stay humble. And so I'm constantly trying to reflect on the things that I've been really lucky for. I'm actually writing today. There'll be a piece I'm talking about, and one of the things is mentorship. For example, I've been very lucky that I've had really experienced, really talented people who are much older and more experienced kind of guide me at various points in my career, and that's something that is part luck, and it's part I did some work for it, and I put myself in the position to. So I think important to understand, have an honest conversation with yourself, understand your circumstances, understand your limits, and then forget about it to a certain extent, almost kind of move on to the things that you can control and what you can do about it.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I'm always like super honest, of course, that yeah, because see it from outside, sometimes like, oh, maybe she has worked like really hard. I mean, or it's like, or like there, you have like the two opinions, right? It's just she's lucky or she has worked really hard. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe it was just like there in the right time and then the right moment, but doing something, of course, right? That you were taking action and then everything else was kind of like around, like context. Also, I feel in terms of like career wise, I feel that the first company where I got an internship, it was a bit of luck because at the beginning, when you don't have like much experience, it was just maybe it was, I don't know, we got on well with the hiring manager and then she hired me, whatever. But thanks to that I started into that company that was really international, really big in Spain and well known. I think that because of that, kind of like I had also opportunities in other like big companies. If I didn't work there, probably everything else would be different. I don't know. So I talk a lot about that as well, that I feel that there is an angle of luck in everything.
Yeah, the internship one's quite a common one. And I mean, I don't know if it's very much different in Spain, but in the UK, there are a lot of internships that are unpaid. And so what ends up happening is that it goes to children of parents who kind of afford to support them through doing unpaid work.
Yeah.
And then you get this kind of inequality. And so, on the like individual's behalf, there's they've done the work to get the internship and they've done a great job and that should be acknowledged, but also acknowledge that you were in a position to be supported throughout unpaid work, which is not the case for everybody. And I had an unpaid internship and I was very lucky that I was able to be supported when I was young and try different things out. And so I know this firsthand, but yeah, that's an example of where it's a bit of a mix of both.
Agree. Yeah, completely agree. And also, I know that also I saw like one of I don't know, because I just took some stuff from your articles, and I know that somewhere I can't remember where you talk as well about personality tests. That sometimes that feels that you just get like a label, right? I also feel that sometimes people are just looking for a way to justify themselves somehow, that saying, hey, I am, and in corporate there is a lot of this, right? I'm like the colors thing, that I'm green, I'm yellow, I'm red, or like the personality, like 16 personalities, right? That I think I don't know if it was the example, but I don't know if you were like INTJ, that you put it there. Okay.
Yeah.
So I also have kind of like a weird feeling with that, because I love personality tests in general. I just like to take all of them just to try to understand myself better. But I feel somehow it's just like a way of me looking for, okay, I'm this way because of that, right? So, and then you just get the label and you justify yourself and then whatever, right? So do you use them? I don't know, for Rumbo, for example, or do you recommend them? Do you feel that they're useful? What's your approach here?
I like this question. No. So I don't use them myself. I have done, I think I did the Myers-Briggs one. I can't remember what I was, but and we use some of the, like, I suppose, frameworks and methodologies for Rumbo, but as a part of a kind of larger, more sophisticated framework. I think that the issue I find with personality tests is that humans are incredibly complex and nuanced, and to try and confine them to like arbitrary things like a letter or a color or an animal or something like that as the only kind of output of these tests, I think is not particularly helpful. For example, even take like extroversion, introversion. That's a scale. These things aren't binary, and so there's a tendency for somebody to, I think I was an extrovert, but actually there are certain circumstances where I feel very extroverted. Certain people I feel extroverted with. There's certain scenarios where I feel very introverted, depending on the time of day, where I am, what season it is. All of these different things. And so I feel like it gives misleading information about myself. Same with what is it, like intuiting perceiving. I can't remember.
Mhm.
Yeah, whichever the other one is that these aren't binary things. It's
Yeah.
it's very complicated, and I think as well they have a tendency. People are really looking for quick fixes, and they want answers quickly, especially for problems that feel like severe and present, which career problems tend to, because it's connected to money and livelihood and all of those things. But I think Naval Ravikant talks about spend more time on the big decisions. He says like who you choose to spend your life with, where you choose to live, and what you choose to do are the kind of three big decisions. And if you can spend years making the right decision, you'll live a happy life. And the truth is, you're not going to get the answer in 10 or 20 minutes, however long it takes to do these tests. So I think that they can be useful.
You're not going to get the answer just thinking as well, Jess, but maybe just
Yeah,
trying things.
Exactly. I mean, so that's why I talk about experimentation quite a lot, and that's become a big part of like what we're trying to encourage people to do through Rumbo is these kind of controlled experiments to gather more information about yourself. So yeah, I think that to answer your question, personality tests can be useful as a part of a wider strategy, a broader strategy, but on their own, I don't think that they give too much.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And also I feel that, I don't know, you can also what you were saying, right? That you can also change depending on circumstances. I don't know, for me, at least one of these, the 16 personalities thing, that actually because I lived in London for years, and it was just there that I discovered this test. And in every company I was going, they were making this test at the beginning. And I remember even I was so happy to see that I was getting the same result in all the companies in different years. And I was like, wow, I'm still the same. And I was so proud, and at the beginning, I also got like this INTJ, and it was so special because it was only, I think, like 3% or whatever, 1% of population. I was like, oh, amazing, I'm so special. But then after I took it a while ago, I don't know, I felt special. Yeah. And then a while ago, like maybe 2 years or 3 years ago, I took it again here in Berlin, and I got completely different letters. Like all of them were different. I was like, have I changed, or I don't know how I'm answering? And I wasn't happy with the result. And I was like, I'm just not using it anymore, just.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing as well, is that, a couple of things there. Firstly is that like you answer the question based on what you hope the result will be, especially if you've done one before. And so at that time where you're working in these corporate jobs, INTJ or whatever it was probably fit your own perception of like what I want my identity to be as I'm in this phase of my life, in the corporate phase of my life. And so when you did those tests again, you're probably answering in a way that's, I want to be INTJ. So
exactly. And then it was
in that way. Whereas you left that scenario, you left that context, and then you're kind of like, oh well, I don't need to be this thing anymore, so I'm going to answer more honestly, maybe, or even I'm going to answer to move away from that previous identity or identification that I had. So I think that they're hard to get right.
Yeah, I agree. And then just like to finish as well, I know that one of your articles as well that I really like, I really noted that you say that, I think that someone commented in one of the first viral articles, right? And they said that they were making 120K a year just to be in meetings, right? And they just like accepted that. And you said that one of your friends who is a paramedic and saves lives makes only 30K a year. So I feel that this is something that it happens everywhere, and I really like people recognizing that they're just being in meetings, right? And I feel also like related that you feel like you have to justify that you are there, and you have to justify your role, etc. But linked to that, and maybe from an outsider perspective, based on your friends, what you've read, or even like people that have been leaving comments on your post, your chat, etc. Have you identified like a specific profile or type of people that is more linked to like this, that has like a bullshit corporate job, as in like middle managers, for example, right? That there is a lot about like the middle managers, that they're like the most bullshitty jobs, or yeah, what would you say here?
Yeah. I mean, the classic one, so Rutger Bregman talks about, what does he call it? The
Okay.
Bermuda Triangle of bullshit or meaninglessness or something. There's like corporate finance, banking, and then like
Okay.
management consultancy or something, maybe.
Like
I think
consultant,
that,
yeah, consultant. I think it's a good one, like consultants, yeah.
yeah, well, I think that there's, yeah, I think that there's a few characteristics of this type of bullshit work, and then there's also like characteristics of organizations which allow this type of work to proliferate. And so I think that the characteristic of the work itself, like the nature of the work itself, is that there's I've talked about this before quite a lot. I mean, it's you're removed from the impact that you're having, and so in an organization, particularly, you know, like junior to mid management type roles, you know, you have very little decision making power. You have very little control, and so you know you'll do a day's work, and you know perhaps you'll send a report or build a spreadsheet or something, and then by the time that it actually has an impact in the organization, it's gone through so many different layers of bureaucracy that you're really unsure. You can't point to this is the work that I've done. And if you look at like a paramedic, for example, you go, you see somebody that they're in a critical condition, you save their life, and it's like you're there and you see it. The impact is really clear, and it's just so different to that type of work. And then I think the characteristic of a kind of, I mean, you see it everywhere, to be honest, but I think particularly with these three is that there's the purpose of these organizations seems to be to make shareholders more money, and you can't help but question that as a valuable cause, whereas the purpose of the I don't know, St. John's Ambulance, for example, is to help save lives, and so you can't question the value of that mission. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I completely agree. So, but yeah, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And then just last question to close. I feel that you've been talking to a lot of people. Also, you've been writing a lot and probably have been in touch with people, also people trying Rumbo, etc. What would you say to someone that feel this kind of like famous millennial career crisis, right? That feels stuck and don't know what to do, that all the corporate jobs feel a bit like pointless and don't know what to do with their career. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, carve out some time to carve out some time for yourself to reflect, to think about these things, and to experiment. I think that if it's 5 minutes a day where you go for a walk and you ask yourself the question, what do I really enjoy doing, and what's the character of the things that I enjoy? You can ask yourself, what have people always told me that I'm good at? What things do I just find natural that everybody else seems to struggle with? Go do some research, speak to people, put yourself out there. Opportunity is a function of density. If you can get in the room, have conversations, you'll learn more about yourself. You'll learn more about the type of work that might interest you. But yeah, I think just like if you're really stuck, I think prioritize making time for this experimentation, this reflection, and I mean, yeah, be kind to yourself as well. It's a hard thing to get right. It's a big decision. A lot of people who find themselves in this situation have fallen victim to cultural narratives that have pushed them in a certain direction. Parents who have told them that you need to go to university, you need to study these things. A culture that says these paths are acceptable, this amount of money is acceptable. A lot of it's not your fault. But that doesn't mean that you can't change it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but sometimes even saying it is easy sometimes, but also like myself, right? Sometimes it's hard to really know what you enjoy, right? What you really enjoy, or you're just doing things because, yes, society told you that this is nice now, no? That's like running a marathon, whatever, like just going to Pilates, drinking matcha, I don't know, like all these type of things, right? I just sometimes I wonder, like, do I really enjoy that, or I'm just doing it because everyone is doing it, right? And it kind of like associates myself with certain like status or the character that I really want to become. So yeah, it's difficult to.
I think it's not as easy as just saying, you know, I have these hobbies, so these are the things that I enjoy. I think that there's something about understanding what's the essence of what's the thing that connects all of these hobbies together. And, you know, like, for example, I recently I started doing endurance training for like a triathlon. I very quickly found out that is not something I enjoy, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, sport like needs to take me out of myself a little bit. I tend to prefer sports where you're in the moment and you're not thinking about anything else. That's, you know, that serves a purpose for me. That's given me lots of insights into, you know, ways of working, types of like working environments that would be useful. You know, other things like the way that I engage with hobbies. I typically like to do things where I'm learning and I'm making incremental progress with other people. You know, there's something about the community of it. It doesn't really matter whether it's, you know, for example, like playing golf or football or kickboxing or, you know, any of these hobbies. It's more about the community element, the teamwork element, whereas some people really prefer kind of independent learning. You know, endurance athletes, you know, typically that it's more like technical and it's a bit more solo, and so maybe it's more for independent people. So I think that, yeah, just try and take yourself. You can start with what are my hobbies and my interests, and then try and take yourself a layer deeper, and try to understand what is it that I enjoy about this particular hobby.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm going to try that and do a bit more reflection on that because I feel I need it. But yeah, I don't want to steal more time. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it here for now for the questions. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you again and kind of like going deep a bit into more specifics and questions. So yeah, thank you very much for your time.
No, it's always great to chat.
Yeah. How is the Rumbo going? Launch?
Yeah, good. It's going really well. We're trying to focus a little bit more on like organizations that we can partner with. You know, when we first launched, it was more of a kind of B2C model, whereas now we're really focusing on, can we partner with, you know, like government, schools, universities, and so that's been a real focus recently. Also just like making it a little bit more accessible. But that's good. We've got a lot of pilots, a lot of partnerships in the works. I'm trying to like think about how I feel like I've got a really incredible asset with my Substack, and I feel like I'm neglecting it entirely. So in the last couple of days, I've been thinking a little bit more about how do I, you know, start to think of myself or my Substack as like a media company rather than just, you know, if I'm just here writing my thoughts. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, just doing a bit of everything. So I'm doing a lot of experiments, so that's good as well. So trying different things, I think. So this is the year that I can just try things, and I'm in peace with that. You know, I can just if it doesn't work out something, I'm okay. So I can just do something else. So I'm doing a bit of fractional work with a company. Then yeah, some freelancing in like different areas, because for me it's been always hard to just like specialize in just one thing, right? Because I just enjoy too many things, and then everything that is new for me is like attractive, and I just want to learn, you know. That's what I want to do, just learn new things and share the things. That's it. I would enjoy just doing that. So yeah, I'm just diversifying, trying and see where it goes. But what I had really clear when I left my job, it was that I didn't want to do only content creation, or I didn't want to be dependent on that only, even if it pays quite well, collaborations, etc. Yeah, but I just don't want to do that only. So that's where I'm exploring something else elsewhere. But yeah, doing a lot of introspection and questions and things.
Is Substack a big part of that?
For now, not really. I'm just I mean, I enjoy it. I'm just also trying to see the angle, because I feel that in every platform that I have, I feel that I have a kind of like different personality as well. I don't know how to say it, that I show like a part of me, like Instagram is something, TikTok is like completely different. I just don't care. I just like do whatever. And it's like an expression platform. Like thoughts that I wouldn't post on Instagram. Instagram is more like community. I feel that I know people there. It's a bit more polished kind of, but yeah. LinkedIn is more like the behind the scenes of me trying to create something and like my life, whatever, from a professional angle. And then just Substack is just kind of like my safe space, I would say now. I really enjoy reading, a lot of like people like more long form content. I discover a lot of like super interesting people. I'm just talking, to people that I find there. And sometimes I just write, but there is no like structured strategy. But now I just like that, right? Like diversifying a bit and just showing a bit of myself everywhere, and then that compensates everything. So yeah.
Nice. Sounds good. Well, I hope it goes well. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. But excited to see this all finished, all the clips and everything. Feel free to post to Instagram, or I've been useless on Instagram. I haven't been doing anything, but feel free to post on there as well. And
I'll download this and see where I get from this. But I'm sure I'll let you know. And just have a look at the paper that I sent you. I think it was there when I was reading that yesterday. I was like, okay, I need to send it to him. So
I'll give it a read.
And have a good rest of your day.
Likewise. Thanks so much.
Following you and reading you around.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Ciao. Bye.